I'd like to continue taking a look at the Christian and the Buddhist traditions with regard to joy and the importance of achieving joy in our lives, and been discussing different aspects of that. Um, the importance in terms of the Buddhist perspective with joy is that we should always maintain a joyful mind. It's very important to have this mind that is a joyful mind. And so, in terms of being joyful, it's important to look at everything from this perspective, that mentally uh, containing that perspective of joy and promoting joy. Very interesting study was done in 1978 by Philip Brickman, Dan Coates, and Ronnie Janoff Pullman. They looked at two very different types of people and compared them. And when I read this, it kind of blew my mind a bit. They looked at lottery winners, and you would think, oh, lottery winners, they're going to certainly have a joyful state of mind, right? And they looked at those who had been paralyzed in an accident. Now, somebody who's in an accident and gets paralyzed and have to be in a wheelchair and difficulty getting around. I mean, you just look at that and say, oh my, how terrible, what a tragedy in life. I mean, they're just in this accident. Be a car accident, a fall, a swimming, playing sports, any type of accident where your heart goes out to somebody who suffers that. And they looked at those two groups of people, analyzed it, and they came to an amazing conclusion. One that really is hard to comprehend. And that is, the lottery winners were not significantly happier than those who had been paralyzed in an accident. I mean, your first reaction to a study like that is to say, hey, they made a huge mistake here, I mean, this cannot be true. This cannot have happened. It's totally impossible. But yet that was their result. Now, what explains that? Their thought was this: we get accustomed to any new situation. When we are in this new situation, we basically get used to that situation, to the parameters of that situation, to how to work in that situation, to how to live in that situation. So whether you're a lottery winner and you have this extra money to deal with, or you've been paralyzed and you have these limiting conditions to deal with, you get accustomed to those living in those conditions. That's your context for life. And you know that you have to accept that context in order to thrive. And you inevitably return to your general state of happiness when you get accustomed to that condition. So the money, you spend it or use it up or whatever, it's gone. It's giving you a certain amount of happiness, but you go back to your original state of as a person, how you were happy, how you dealt with life. The same with somebody who's been paralyzed. They adjust to that situation and they go back to their general state of happiness. Remarkable. I mean, common sense would say that can't be true, but yet this study, very detailed study, shows that it is true. Psychologist Sonia Lyubomirsky came to a conclusion about happiness. Only 50% of our happiness is determined by our genes. Because we would generally say, well, a lot of your happiness, it's your genetic makeup. it's those genes that were passed on from your mother and father that determines it. The other 50%, where does that come from? According to Lyubomirsky, it comes from a combination of our circumstances and our attitudes. Our attitudes. Very interesting, right? Our attitudes. Exactly what the Buddhists speak of, right? Maintaining that joyful mind, that attitude. The three most important factors are our ability to reframe our situation more positively, our ability to experience gratitude, and our choice to be kind and generous. Now that's fascinating, right? I mean, you look at, well, what is the source of happiness? 50% from our genetic makeup, understandable. But the other 50%, different circumstances in our lives, but our attitudes are significant. And what are those three factors again? Our ability to reframe our situation more positively. So we look at our situation, and it might have certain negatives, but we are able to reframe that situation in a much more positive light. Secondly, our ability to experience gratitude. The importance in life of being truly grateful seems to be a key to happiness. The more we can express gratitude, the more we can be in touch with true and authentic and realistic happiness. Gratitude, so important. And then finally, a choice that we have to make. Again, coming back to the attitude and the Buddhist concept of the joyful mind, our choice to be kind and generous. People who are kind, people who are generous, are much, much happier people. So is our happiness to a certain extent under our control? Well, we see it in the difference with the lottery winners and the paralyzed people. I mean, those who are paralyzed are making those choices to be kind and generous and loving and caring in spite of their circumstances. They have reframed what has happened to them. They've seen it in a positive light. At least I'm alive. I have friends. I have family. I can reach out to people. You see it in a different light. And so when you reflect on this, I think you get a true sense of what happiness is and how happiness can be achieved in life. It's not about winning a lottery. It's about who we are as persons and that ability to maintain that joyful mind.